Hello, welcome to an experiment. This is the first vlog produced from the Warden Study in New College. What I hope to do twice a year is to talk to you like this and to introduce you to some of the people around the college, fellows and students, and to give you a sense of what's actually been happening. New College has always had a strong tradition of Rhodes Scholars over time and from many countries. And the rumour is that we're the most popular destination at the moment for Rhodes Scholars. Rebecca Escherstein is one of our most recent crop, and I asked her a little bit about life here and what it meant for her.
So Ohio to Rockets is a big jump. How did that happen?
Most people would actually say that Ohio, there's a joke, Ohio has some of the most astronauts per capita in the US.
Right.
And so there's a joke that's like, what is it about your state that makes people want to leave the planet? That I think people have told on the news and stuff, like it's a meme now on the internet. So I guess it's just following that tradition. I did my undergrad at the US Air Force Academy and somehow ended up getting a Rhodes Scholarship.
You say somehow. It was extremely well deserved.
It was, I feel like once you get to a certain point in the process, it becomes like luck.
And do the Air Force keep an eye on you while you're here? Are they interested in your progress?
Yeah, so I have to fill out yearly reports saying this is what I've done, this is what I'm up to. I have to do my fitness test every year. So
we know you're fit because you row a lot.
Yeah. So I wish I didn't have to do the fitness test, but it's how it is. But usually it's an easy full marks.
And being in the US military here, has that been any issue for you? People being welcoming?
So Oxford is obviously a very liberal university, but usually when I've run into people, they're instead of, I've heard people say oh, I'm against militaries in principle, but I'm interested to hear, they're always really respectful. Yeah. So it's always been nice. My classmates have challenged my viewpoints in many different ways and have really made me think. I remember our first year retreat. There were big conversations on privilege and race and everything, and things that I never really had to deal with growing up because I'm from a middle class family in the U.S. We've never been wanting for anything. We're not super wealthy by any means, but I definitely have privilege. I went to a service academy that paid for my education. I know I owe it back. I don't have student debt or anything. I have a Rhodes Scholarship, so that's the definition of privilege at some point. So it really kind of forces you to grapple with these ideas. And I remember leaving the retreat that day and feeling exhausted because I just keep going in circles about what these ideas mean to me and how I can be better or how I can take them to be better in the world and make the world a better place, if even in a tiny bit of a way. New College has been wonderful. So my biggest involvement with New College has been through the boat club. Yeah. And I think the boat club kind of represents New College on a smaller scale because the college has always been really friendly, from the porters to the students, and the boat club has been this kind of my big tie to the college.
Well, I certainly think we've gained from having you here, and I was very proud to see you taking part in our Remembrance Day service.
Oh, that was a huge honour for me.
That's right. So thank you, Rebecca, very much for joining this conversation. Thank you for being in New College, and all the very best of luck as you move onwards.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tim is Wickham Professor of Logic at Oxford, and he's a long-term fellow of New College. He's a prolific writer with such marvellous titles as The Philosophy of Philosophy. He follows in the footsteps of other great New College philosophers such as A.J. Ayer. I asked him a little bit about what New College meant for him and about what his work involves at the moment.
Classical rather than romantic, realist rather than idealist, secular rather than religious. I use a methodology that's quite mathematical, but not for reductionist purposes, and I try to find a middle course between the excesses of empiricism and rationalism. There's a sort of slogan that is associated with me, which is knowledge first. So if I'm only allowed two words on my tombstone,
well, that is perfect. I can
first.
almost guarantee that now in the cloisters.
I had the feeling that the kind of self-understanding that contemporary philosophers had didn't really fit what they were actually doing in their practice, that they had a rather old-fashioned conception of what philosophy was, while in fact doing it in a more contemporary way. I want to put forward a picture which I think in fact fits what people are doing much more, where philosophers are, in some sense, are investigating the world just like, as it were, other people in other academic disciplines, but in a somewhat more abstract and general way, and to defend the kind of methodology that we have, so that although we don't do as it were, real life experiments as opposed to thought experiments, I think the methods that we're using can in fact be defended as perfectly appropriate to the sorts of questions that we're asking. It's relatively easy to give some examples which show that philosophy isn't just an ivory tower subject. I mean, in the case of logic, which I'm professor of, the simplest example is the work of Alan Turing, who was a logician, and he was solving a very abstract problem in technical logic, but the outcome was the invention of the computer. Philosophers, particularly moral philosophers, I mean, they regard it as part of their remit to ask questions of value. In most other academic disciplines, people are very shy of asking those questions, but somebody needs to be asking those value questions, in a really rigorous way, where different possibilities are considered fairly and all the possible objections to them are properly worked through. And I think that more of that is done in philosophy than in any other academic discipline. And I mean, it's hard to deny that that's something of public importance. I mean, just to give an example, the idea of human rights came out of philosophy. My father was an undergraduate here, and his tutor John Buxton was my godfather, and a very generous one. So that as where New College very much feels like home. I still remember, even as a child, being taken and shown the old wooden fire engine in the cloisters, which it was moved out.
Which I asked about the other day. In fact, I'd completely forgotten about it until recently.
Yes.
It's now in an obscure museum of transport somewhere in southern Oxford.
Yes.
But Tim, thank you very much for coming and talking to us.
Now, not all my life is spent in New College. I have to do things for the Central University, and one of the things I'm particularly interested in and am enjoying is my role helping the university to develop a disability strategy as chair of the disability subgroup of the Conference of Colleges. Disability is an issue which Oxford has probably shirked in the past, and one of the excuses given, of course, is that the buildings are very difficult to adapt. How do you get chair lifts into a medieval staircase, for instance? But I do kind of think that that's an excuse, and that reality is that we should be doing better. So I'm very pleased that New College has been able to do something original and groundbreaking in this area. We had a tiny sliver of land behind our Morris Garage site, between the Morris Garages and the city wall, on which we've been able to build something really quite remarkable. 2 fully accessible rooms with a carer's room as well. It's a first in Oxford, and it represents the very, very best of accessible design. We've been to some consultants who know what disability design is about and who've designed it from scratch. So the facilities are world class. They're already occupied. We have Harry Gable, a postgraduate student who's in residence. He acted as our chief de-snagger. We recently opened the disability wing. We've called it the Kimber wing, Kimber, of course, was the person employed by William Morris, originally as a sales manager for the Morris Company, and then became the inventor of the MG. He was a brilliant engineer, and MG, of course, stands for Morris Garage. So Kimber symbolises to a degree something akin to agility, and it seemed like a very suitable name to give to this new part of New College, the Kimber Wing. Chris Patten, the Chancellor of the University, came and opened the Kimber Wing, and for us, not just at New College, but as a university, it symbolises a new commitment to regard reasonable adjustments, that is to say, making life normal for students who have a disability, as something which is mainstream and something which every college should seek to cater for. I hope you've enjoyed watching this short vlog. In the next issue, I'm going to talk about another of our new developments, the Claw music practice rooms, which have just been finished and which will be opened by the time that issue reaches you. In the meantime, one other bit of news. You may not have known, if you've not been in the college for a while, that our El Greco had disappeared for quite a long number of years to the Ashmolean. Well, we've finally got it back, and it's in its position, as it always was from the early 1960s, in the chapel. Previously there'd been a big black space there. So it's something rather marvellous that's happened in the last term to see St James the Great gazing down on us again, as he always did. Thank you so much for watching and listening.